Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's jump right in. Today we are unpacking a really beautiful story called Lumi and the Path of Hope. It's this heartwarming tale about a tiny little lantern facing an absolutely massive storm. And it uses this simple fable to dig deep into some big concepts, things like purpose, resilience, and inner strength. But before we really get into the narrative, I want you to think about this. Have you ever felt, just a little too small to actually make a difference? It's a completely common human experience, right? We are so wired to measure our worth by our physical size or our status or how visible we are to the public. But today's story is this powerful reminder for anyone who's ever doubted their own impact. It shows us that true value isn't always obvious right off the bat. All right, part one, the village and little Lumi. Let's set the scene. So picture this picturesque mountain village where every single evening, dozens of these grand, proud lanterns safely light up the busy, heavily populated streets. But down on a narrow, lonely path, actually, it's more like a completely abandoned dirt trail at the absolute edge of town, we have our underdog, Lumi. Lumi is tiny. We're talking an old metal frame, scratched glass, and an honestly pretty dim flame. And those grand village lanterns, they literally laughed at Lumi's placement. They would openly mock the little lantern, claiming its light was a total waste. Now, as you can imagine, hearing that mockery day in and day out made Lumi feel incredibly sad. But then we have the village caretaker, an elderly guy named Thomas. Every evening, he would gently polish Lumi's scratched glass before hanging it up, and he'd offer this foundational piece of wisdom. He'd say, "You may not know it, but every light has a purpose." He didn't just brush off Lumi's feelings. He completely validated the tiny lantern's existence. And those words from Thomas became a total anchor. Even though Lumi felt lonely out there on the edge of town, it chose to just shine with all its heart. And in doing so, it found this incredible, unexpected purpose in the natural world. By providing a safe glow, Lumi attracted this whole community. Silent flying owls, dancing fireflies, hopping rabbits, and curious foxes would all gather near the lantern. Lumi greeted every single one of them. It realized that, hey, humans might about walk this path, but the forest was teeming with life, and its light was already deeply important to these amazing creatures. Which brings us to section 2, the coming storm. So every peaceful story eventually hits a roadblock, right? Here, the tranquil vibe is completely shattered by the biggest weather event of the season, and the chaos escalates incredibly fast. Let's look at the timeline. In the afternoon, dark clouds roll in. A young girl named Maya is out playing, and her puppy Coco chases a butterfly deep into the woods, so Maya runs after him. By evening, bam, the storm hits hard. The winds are so ferocious that several of those huge, proud lanterns in the village square are literally blown out. And by nightfall, rain is pouring, thunder is shaking the mountains, and Maya and Coco are completely lost. This plunges the normally safe village into total darkness and panic. Moving on to section 3, lost in the dark. Things get dire real quick here. Maya is wandering blindly, stumbling over roots, totally terrified. And the howling wind is testing both her and our solitary little lantern out on the forest path. Lumi is fighting an absolute battle against the elements. The wind is just hammering against its scratched glass, and the tiny flame is flickering wildly on the absolute verge of dying. But Lumi holds on tight to what Thomas said, that every light has a purpose. With everything it has, the little lantern protects its flame. Against all odds, it just refuses to stop shining, declaring, "I can't give up." Section 4, One Brave Little Flame. Far away, pushing through the heavy, blinding rain and the pitch-black woods, Maya spots something, just a tiny, distant golden glow. Now, it wasn't incredibly bright, and it wasn't super close, but in that overwhelming darkness, it was a total game-changer. Seeing that glow gave her the exact spark of hope she needed. As she hurried toward it, Lumi's warm light guided her safely, step by step, around slippery rocks and broken branches. That light is what helps her finally locate her shivering puppy, Coco. Reunited, Maya realized the lantern seemed to be patiently saying, "Follow me." And step by step, she used that glowing path to find her way home. And finally, section 5, the path of hope. Back in the village, it was pure chaos. Search parties had been completely frantic. So you can imagine the sheer tears of relief when Maya and Coco finally emerged from the forest, saved by the smallest lantern that fought the strongest storm without ever going out. The whole dynamic of the village flipped overnight. The next morning, those proud lanterns who had mocked Lumi actually apologized, admitting they were completely wrong. And Lumi's response? Incredible grace. It just said, "We all shine in different places. No gloating, no revenge. It didn't need a parade, it just wanted to be there for whoever needed its light. The mayor openly admitted they had messed up by judging based on size instead of purpose. From that day on, absolutely no one laughed at Lumi again. In fact, children and travelers would go out of their way just to visit the brave little lantern. Thomas polished it with extra pride, and that once lonely dirt trail, it was forever renamed the Path of Hope. Because as it turns out, courage is not measured by size, but by the willingness to keep shining in the dark. So, wrapping up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. Where will you choose to shine your light today? I think we can all be a little bit like Lumi. Never ever think your efforts are too small to matter, because even your smallest, seemingly most insignificant light could be the exact thing needed to guide someone else through their darkest night. Thanks so much for joining me, and I really hope this story inspires you to keep shining.